Hey everyone, and welcome to Almost Cancelled. I am Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 7, Episode 2. It's called Know Your Onions. So, full spoilers for the episode, as always. I think I saw the title before this, but misread it as, like, Know Your Opinions or something like that. But the title makes much more sense after having actually watched the episode.
Yeah, there's context for it.
Yeah, I wonder if maybe my brain just thought, onions sound stupid, I'm going to correct it in my mind.
Sounds like a perfectly plausible thing for a brain to do.
Yeah, before I start. So, yeah, so this was the second, I'll say, half of the 1931 portion of the season. Since we seem to be moving on. A little bit of a
surprise, right?
It is and it isn't. It isn't, because this is just typical S.H.I.E.L.D. pacing, where we expect it to stick around for a while, and then...
We said just last week that this could be, we could do the full season here.
We could have done.
And then here we are, one episode later, go, nah, forget that.
No, we're moving on. I believe, I haven't seen it, but apparently the promo does tell us that it's going to be the 50s next episode, so...
Okay, are you going to get progressively further forward as we go through the season?
So we're doing the greatest hits tour of the S.H.I.E.L.D. Hydra timeline, which is actually kind of a wonderful concept for the final season, given how important that's been to the core of the show since the start. I mean, most people will say that the show got legitimately great when the Hydra reveal happened, that it tied into the movies. So, it's it makes sense. It all clicks together. So, where do we begin with this then? I will say I did feel the budget a little bit more this episode. It felt like it went like 2/3 entirely consisting in either the Zephyr set, the bar set, or I guess
train.
Mac and Nat were in a train set and technically a car as well. But like it all felt very confined until the last like 5-10 minutes, where it felt like it opened up a little bit.
It did. I think I give it a little bit of leeway in that a lot of especially Mac, it was all original sets for this episode. It wasn't like recycling things. The bar, it's a 2-episode set, right? For now. I mean, we might see it again in the future.
I think we'll see this.
But it'll be redressed, surely.
It'll be redressed, but I think we'll see that bar in the 50s.
Yeah, I'm sure we will, but it'll be redressed, so there's work to be put into that. The Zephyr's the only stable set, really.
Yeah, in fact, Koenig, Patton Oswalt's character, is probably my favourite element of the episode in a lot of ways. For a couple of different reasons. One, the fact that he learns about the future, because they just start openly talking about stuff in front of him, and he's like, "Wait, what's going on?" Like, and he's asking,
it's when they say World War II, and he's like, "What the hell are you talking about?"
World War II, the Hydra. What are you talking about? So he does all these things, and there's so many moments with him that I really like you say, the World War II moment, but also the idea that he ends up left alone with Enoch, who's a Chronicon, and it's like, are we finally getting to kind of the root of why we have multiple, Patton Oswalds in the future? Is this all going to click into place? And it makes sense that how he becomes such a big part of S.H.I.E.L.D. is that he had this knowledge. This was, I really think this season's fallen into the category for me of this was always going to happen, and the Koenigs always had this information because they went back in time.
I suspect so, which is really nicely consistent with S.H.I.E.L.D.'s previous time travel rules.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm all for it.
It's the vibe I'm getting. My favourite element, though, might have been when they take the blindfold off of him when he's in the Zephyr, and the blindfold comes off, and it's just like LCD screens all over the walls, and he's this dude from 1931. He's like,
and it's like, what? Is this a rocket ship?
Are you Martians? Is he? What would you call it? A robot? Is he a robot? which actually, no, it does make sense. I don't think the word robot was that common in 1931. It wasn't as prolific, so makes sense,
Yeah, it does. It's clearly enough that, okay, people know it, but it's not, a common thing that everyone will just throw around all the time.
Yeah, to put it in movie terms, Metropolis, the big German film, was the 1920s, so that was a relatively new thing, that movie at the time, just to put it in kind of context of where we are in pop culture when it comes to the old robots. If I ever mentioned this last episode, but I did really appreciate last episode that there was a Dracula poster in the background at one point, because Dracula came out in 1931, and I was like, yeah. Honestly, if there's any way to just tie it into like a period in history for me, at least if it's from like that era onwards, is like if you put a movie poster in the background of a movie that came out that year, okay,
it sells it for you.
I get it. I'm there. I'm in the mindset. I'm on board for the ride.
I wonder what they'll pick next time.
With the 50s, though. I mean, they could go for probably some B sci-fi cheesy. It depends what year it is specifically, but
yeah. We'll have to wait and see.
Forbidden Planet, Cave from Outer Space, whatever. It could be any of those, depending on what year they're in. That said, though, they'll probably want something that's owned by... Although having said that, Dracula's Universal, so I guess...
Yeah, I was just going to say, it's a poster, so I think they're able to use it a lot easier than footage.
Well, no, I think there's still a copyright thing, but...
No, there is, but I think it's a lot
cheaper.
Less strict. Right, yeah, cheaper.
Yeah,
no one cares as much when it comes to the posters. They'll throw them around all over the place, whereas clips is expensive.
Or the point I was just going to make is that they made the choice, they cared enough that they wanted it. And let's face it, Disney obviously had content from that time period, but I don't know if they had a big movie they could have put in the background for 1931 specifically. So, they made that choice. So I'll be interested to see if they continue that kind of thing. It's also especially as you get closer and closer to present day, like movies become such a big thing that it's very easy to like pinpoint a year in the 80s or the 70s by having Jaws in the background or having Back to the Future in the background. It's very easy to give the time period on that. What's so interesting about using this time period though is that it's so far back in the world. I mean, as pointed out in the episode, it's pre-World War II. It's such a different world to what we're used to.
And I think those Universal monster films are some of the most recognizable from that period.
Oh, they absolutely are. The only thing that's equally recognizable from that decade is probably Wizard of Oz and Gone with the Wind, and those were both later in the decade, I'm sure.
Later, yeah.
Yeah. So, no, it makes sense. Although, I'm going to just make the wish right now. I'm going to put my hands together, and I'm going to say that if we do indeed get to the 1980s at some point, Chopping Mall must be the poster in the background.
I'm a hundred. You know what? I thought this was going to be you doing something stupid, and I was going to roll my eyes. But no, I'm with you. That would make perfect sense, and I want Mac to actually acknowledge it.
I want Mac to consider like putting the mission on hold for a couple hours so he can go to the theater and see Chopping Mall as it was meant to be seen. Oh dear. Although the interesting thing about that is if we do go that far at into the future, closer to the present, we'll get to the point where some of these characters will be born. There'll be younger versions running around in some capacity.
Yeah, I would not be surprised if we go right up to like the start of the show. Almost.
Yeah, I could see that. I could see them almost in a Back to the Future Part 2 where they're running around in the background of the pilot.
If you're doing this in the final episodes, it'll give you an excuse to bring back like Ward and stuff like that for your show finale.
Yeah, no, it all makes sense. So lots of potential there. Lots of potential there, and obviously the older characters that could be like we see kid versions of or something first would be Coulson and May, because those are both in their 50s or whatever. So, obviously 1950s, the decade isn't close enough yet, but we'll get there.
I think at the pace this is just established, I do feel like we are going to be seeing some of those very familiar beats because this here is further back than any of the movies really. Like Captain America's more or less the earliest point, right? Barring certain sequences here or there.
Yeah, barring stuff technically in Thor that's like, oh, this is actually thousands of years ago or whatever.
Sure, yeah, but I mean, mainline, okay, recognizable main story elements. That's kind of the earliest that I can think of. And this is obviously uncharted territory here before it. But afterwards now we can start playing with beats and elements from, those movies. I
mean, what are the odds we get a Peggy Carter cameo in the next couple of episodes? Yeah, I'd say there's a reasonable chance as well. It just feels right. So I think it's fun. What they've set up now is that we're going to spend maybe 2 episodes. Obviously, they've skipped the 40s. That might just be a conscious choice because the 40s and the 30s are relatively similar looking. They didn't want to just do the same thing. Because part of me does hope that we get probably 60s, 70s, 80s. Like, I kind of want all of those in some way or another.
Yeah, it depends what beats they want to play, I suppose.
Yeah.
I guess by skipping the 40s, we're skipping over the war itself and just jumping to S.H.I.E.L.D. in the aftermath. Because, again, this is all focused through S.H.I.E.L.D.
I think the argument as well is that the 40s, like, the Captain America, the movie, did kind of cover that. Like, we know, we've seen that more or less. So, yeah. So so we end up, there's a glorious like heartbreaking moment as Enoch's running for the ship at the end, because we find out that they do have like a time limit where the Zephyr's just going to jump to the next, it's like this wave of time where it's just going to jump to the next pocket, and they have to be inside the ship, because the ship, and if the ship's not closed and sealed, then they might actually break the ship apart. So they actually have to close the door. It's going up, and Enoch's running, and I thought, well, he's going to get left behind, because Enoch, as he's done before, can literally just wait around for decades until they show up again. But I mean, Simmons did also mention that the time pockets, like this one obviously is going to be a couple of decades, but she did mention that it could literally be like 20 minutes apart, if, potentially. So
I got that as the impression as of how long until it would shunt them to the next period, not necessarily how far the jump was. So she says, it could be 24 minutes, 24 hours, 24 weeks, I think is like the phrase she uses. I thought that was between jumps, as in like, okay, so this starts the countdown at, 14 minutes or whatever.
Sure.
It's just like, and someone says, I thought we had longer. And that's where she says, this is just how it is.
Well, even if that's the case, it doesn't change the fact that it could also be a jump of 24 minutes.
It could.
Nothing disputes that potential either, so... I think it's a fun little idea. Like I say, I love the idea of him teaming up with Oswald, and just them, like just that, like sort of almost like filling in an answer to a piece of Shield history that's been kind of teased in season 1 again. It feels like it's all coming full circle, and it's not something that we felt super missing if the show did end at the end of season 5. But it's really nice that it's getting to like just cap off all these little things.
Yeah, it would never have mattered. It was just one of those unsolved mysteries of life, right? But it wasn't important. But having it here is even more fun.
Yeah, the actual gist of the episode, for the most part, is that Mac and Deke are with was it Freddie Malik? Yeah, it was.
I think Freddie is what they call him, but it's not his actual name, is it? I think it's like
Wilfred.
That's what they call him when they refer to him as Malik. Yeah.
Yeah. So they're with him, and I mean, I thought this was a slightly weaker episode than last. Well, at least this episode really won me over by the end. I think the first chunk of it was a little bit weaker. Not that it was bad, but just in the sense that I felt the conversations with Freddie were kind of repetitive or circular, where it didn't really feel like it was
just what's really going on. There's more going on here. You better tell us. We're here to protect you.
Yeah.
Repeat 3 times.
It wasn't that captivating, and I was almost worried that the other team that were in the bar trying to fix up the Hydra lady were going to almost repeat those beats, and it was going to be even worse. But luckily, that took the opposite tactic, where they just started talking about it in front of what's his face, Koenig. I keep forgetting his character's name. And Koenig's reaction to that made that really entertaining, and that made everything kind of pop in that side plot, as opposed to the other one where it felt like it was kind of covering the same ground again. It really kind of felt like we didn't really need to see anything from them. Well, once they're on the train, we could have literally just, outside of 1 or 2 small bits of them trying to like communicate or something, we didn't really need any of it.
The interrogation bit once, where they're searching through the stuff, and then he finds them, and the gun gets pulled on them. I think that scene you have, but all the other bits cut entirely.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I guess the point, if there is one, is to make Deke kind of see him as a human being, so that later on, when he finally gets to the walkie-talkie working and he's talking to Skye, and Skye all episode, and this is probably the other source of frustration for me this episode, is kind of Skye's, her just being naive here, because Skye in the past has definitely been reckless and definitely jumped the gun when it comes to a lot of things. It's kind of her character, but she's grown a lot over the course of the 7 seasons of the show, and it felt a little bit weird to me that she was like, damn the consequences, let's just kill this kid so that Gideon can never be a thing and Hydra can never be a thing. And
I didn't mind it when the argument was first presented, and the others argue her down, and they're like, well, hang on, this is what the Chromicons want, and they know the outcome. So we have to assume that it's worse.
Yeah, if anything,
and I thought that was a really good argument.
Yeah, that if anything, that felt like it was the end of the debate to me. Is like, okay, we can sit and debate the consequences of doing something or not interfering or whatever, but ultimately the Chronicrons do know what the outcome is, and this is what they're trying to do. So if we have to just do the opposite thing, because clearly it's not in their interest. And So later on, even though I kind of like the moment where she's like, "Wait, you've got a gun, Deke?" She's just like, "Take the shot." And the conversation before that was never even about like that kind of situation, but she's just like, "No, take the shot, kill him right now, just do it." And Mac has to talk Deke down, and I like the concept of the scene. I did kind of feel a little bit like we were kind of forced there, like the writing kind of rushed us there because it wanted to do it in this episode, and it didn't really feel as natural as it should have done.
Yeah, I agree with you. Maybe, we talk about shield pacing, getting through things quicker than we expect. Maybe this is one of those times where it's actually slightly too quick for its own good.
Yeah, maybe. That's maybe one of the few times. Because normally it pulls it off with a deft hand and it doesn't feel, remotely like it is rushing through things. It feels like it's doing things at a nice pace where it feels like it's escalating and it's doing all the character beats.
It feels refreshingly quick is the word I would usually use.
Yeah, but I think the Shield's greatest strength, though, is not even its pacing. It's actually how well it handles its character choices and its character growth. And I guess that's why this sticks out a little bit, is that it feels like she's kind of regressed a little bit for the purpose of this plot beat to happen. And yeah, so that'll be my biggest complaint with the episode. That said, though, the episode did really win me over through the concept of going into different periods of time, through the fun gunfight, everything with Koenig I had a blast with. Him sort of like with a Tommy gun, like outside.
Coulson pulling out the Tommy gun got me good.
Yeah. They literally come in like, almost like a drive-by situation where he's like, take that, coppers, or something like that. Patton Oswalt's shouting out. And of course, Gideon. Sorry, not Gideon. Malik.
I'll excuse the slip on this one.
Yeah, Malik gets away, and there was something interesting here that maybe we could have explored more of. And I assume we're going to see him like older. We're going to see like 20 years. Obviously, a different actor, but I'm assuming we're going to see an older version of this Freddy.
I would have thought so, yeah.
But there's maybe something that could have been done here with him and the idea that because it's pointed out that he isn't really intending like doing anything like dastardly. When someone says
he seems very genuine that he's not a bad person. When
someone says to you, "You're going to cause thousands of deaths," he's just kind of like, "What? I don't want to hurt anyone." Like, and I get the idea that he doesn't really understand what Hydra is yet, and it's going to kind of like seduce him and sort of turn him into what he is over time. And then of course, because we've not really met him that much, we've met his son, and his son's obviously completely 100% Hail Hydra sort of dude.
Yeah.
So this idea that it's gotten worse through the generation and so on, and I feel there's maybe something to be said there because I do like the idea that Koenig's the one in there, the first debate about should we just kill him or not. Koenig's the one like, you can't blame someone for something they're not done yet. Like
yeah, and it's one of these great things because we see it in time travel stories all the time.
Oh yeah.
But usually it's someone coming from the future to our present, and it's our characters making that argument, right? But this time it's our characters in the past, and from our perspective, he's already done these crimes. He's already committed them. He's a terrible person. So it's kind of nice just to have that reminder of no, present day. He's done nothing wrong. He's a perfectly good person.
Yeah. But it adds this extra wrinkle in though but no, he is going to be this bad thing, and he has to be this bad thing because if he doesn't, like, as much as it's nice for Koenig to hope that he can maybe turn things around and be a better person and not go down this path, ultimately you have to, because if you don't, then S.H.I.E.L.D. never gets formed, and if S.H.I.E.L.D. never gets formed, then the Avengers never get formed, and then what happens when Thanos decides to take on half the universe? Like,
he has a nice easy job.
Yeah, there's nothing to stop him. So the consequences are astronomical for events not like panning out the way they're supposed to, which is kind of the fun of time travel. It's sort of like that moral side to it is there, but it adds this extra like factual sort of thing on top of it that kind of rules it out or overrules it, and it makes it a really intriguing sort of character conundrum.
I think it's fascinating where if you didn't have the Chromicons actively knowing what the outcome would be and trying to enforce that, I think you could really go down that route of, well, maybe we should stop it. Maybe Thanos never goes after all this because of whatever the butterfly effect changes, right?
A hell of a butterfly effect for it to affect all the way out there, but yeah, sure.
No, I agree. But whatever the consequence, whatever it is, maybe he doesn't find some of the stones because they're not on Earth or whatever. Whatever way around it goes.
I mean, it's worth mentioning the stuff that he's smuggling right now is literally an ingredient to the super soldier serum. Like, so this is tying in directly to what is ultimately going to lead to Captain America.
Right, and I mean, I'm talking about down the line. Okay, the butterfly effect. Okay, maybe it stops Doctor Strange doing his stuff, and he doesn't have the time stone to give to Thanos, right? So things like that in the Butterfly Effect. Maybe not Thanos not going on his rampage at all, but struggling more. And I think if you don't have the opposition knowing the outcome, there is a really big debate that the cast could be having about, well, do we do this? Do we make through it go through as history just because that's our history, or could we gamble for a better one? And I think that's I think what Sky's supposed to be aiming at, but it doesn't quite land when it points out, well, no, they know it's worse than what we've got, so we have to protect it at all costs, no matter how many bad things have happened.
Do you know this is like pushing some of her personal buttons because Gideon was very instrumental in Lincoln's death? Do you think that's...
I had completely forgotten Lincoln existed, and now I'm annoyed again because I was quite happy having forgotten that. Thank you very much.
Just a thought.
But you're probably right. It wouldn't surprise me.
Yo-Yo's having some mojo problems. There's a moment when they're hiding in the sort of the booze cellar. That's like behind the hidden sort of door in Koenig's office because the cops come in. And it's like not really the cops, it's the Chromicons. And I love this bit where he has to like when Simmons took the bullet out of the wounded woman, she puts it in this shot glass that's got some booze in it. And when the cops are in sort of snooping around, he notices the bullets in the shot glass, so he has to take the shot to like. So even just the phrase "take the shot," the fact that there's a bullet in it is really funny on its own. But
then the follow up to that,
it's when he says, "I can't believe I took a bullet for you people." That just I like it's such an obvious joke to make, but I was not expecting it, and it cracked me up.
It's his delivery, isn't it?
Yeah, and then the fact that he literally takes a bullet for them later also made me laugh, even though. He got shot, but it was a shoulder wound. It was fine.
he's fine. Yeah, we do this.
But no, it cracked me up. It really cracked me up.
Yeah, me too.
So that was really good. But yeah, so Yo-Yo's got some mojo issues. She's not really sure why. She suspects the Shrike being inside her has something to do with it. But we'll see how that pans out.
I think ultimately it'll boil down to just a mental issue.
Probably
rather than a physical ailment.
Do you know what's really funny is I saw someone online say they were really glad that they addressed that she could have caught that bottle, and I'm like, okay, no, I mean it's fine that they did talk about it afterwards. This guy, asked her about it, but I don't think they actually had to verbally address it because the moment itself clearly played as she should be catching this, but she's not. That was the whole point of that scene.
It slowed down, and she looked at it, and then did nothing. It was very clear.
It wasn't a mistake.
She froze.
Yeah, it wasn't like a writing error or something like that. It was no. This is a very intentional thing telling us that she should be grabbing that, but she's not.
Yeah, if they hadn't addressed it, I would have just assumed, okay, this is going to be a recurring thing, and someone will pick up on it next time.
Yeah, we'll see it later. Yeah. So it was a weird take for me to see that someone thought that was not a mistake, but something that had to be immediately talked about. It was always weird. I thought
that is a little bizarre. Yeah.
But so yeah, that was solid stuff. We have to talk about May, who's very acting very strange.
Cold is the word I would use, even by May's standards.
Borderline robotic. It is like, I hate to say it this way because she technically died and came back, but it's very. I don't want to say bloodlust, but it's like she came back without.
I literally just reached for a drink and realised I'd already finished it.
It's just she's very. It's like something's missing, like a piece of her's not came back with her. And
I honestly, I think a lot of this will be put down to just her grieving.
Very possibly.
She's in mourning for Coulson. This now physical, almost living reminder in front of her is hard for her to deal with. I think is a lot of where it might boil down to. Yeah,
her fight with Enoch was fun. Enoch thinking he could take her on because he's downloaded some like updates. It was
like Hunter package or something.
Yeah, he's downloaded the DLC, the Hunter DLC.
Yeah.
So he's taking her on a fight, but she's because it gets quite vicious at the end where she's just slamming his head off the stairs, and it's obviously he's a Chromicon, so but we get this almost Terminator visual of like the metal coming through.
That's the second time she's smacking his head. That's when she's smacking it with the fire extinguisher.
Quite right, yes.
Yeah, she really smacks him around a lot in this fight.
There was a lot of head smacking in this, so do not recommend.
Yeah,
do not recommend, but. Yeah, so no, but I like the running for the plane at the end, and then obviously the little tease afterwards with Koenig. He's now the bartender, and like I feel like they're going to learn a lot from each other, and
I'm sure they will, and I'm sure he'll be instrumental in setting up the SSR.
And I'm really excited about seeing. I did not expect Patton Oswalt to have like a bigger role than he ever has before, but it feels like, we're definitely going to see him again in a couple of different time periods, like over the course of the season. Maybe not the very next one, but we're definitely going to see him again.
I'm pretty sure of that, yeah.
In fact, I would estimate that we probably will see him in the next one, just because it will still be this original version before he's replaced by.
They'll just stick a bit of makeup on him.
Yeah, probably. Because I feel like, okay, he should still be alive at that point, so we can actually meet the older version of him before we start seeing, the same age ones that are all just duplicates that are running
around all over. Yeah.
Yeah. So, no, really cool stuff. So, as much as I did have some nitpicks with the episode, I don't think it's a home run by Shield standards. Cue your 1930 baseball reference, but it does raise some interesting ideas. I'm excited for where it's going next, and very curious to see where things pan out. Also, little note here to add on, they were almost having a running thing. It was missing the third one, bizarrely, but they had a running thing this episode where Simmons became McCoy from Star Trek and kept saying, I'm not this, I'm a this. Where
the first one was I'm a doctor.
Yeah, it was.
I'm not a dame, I'm a doctor.
Yeah, I'm a doctor, not a dame. Yeah, and then the second one was I'm a biochemist, not a bird.
Yeah.
So I was really expecting a third one because
maybe they're saving the third one for the Koenig reunion.
Yeah, maybe I could see that. So no, so I'm looking forward. It's interesting though to me that like a lot of the characters are kind of a little bit off right now. Yo-Yo's got her mojo issues. May's obviously clearly in a weird place. Sky's making these weird decisions that might completely break the space-time continuum. Like, there's a lot of characters right now who are, not in a mistaken way, just like in terms of their writing right now.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's interesting, especially with with Yo-Yo and May, where it feels like there could be a extra physical element in terms of maybe not all of May came back, or Yo-Yo, maybe it is something to do with the strike, but I think ultimately with all of them it'll boil down to a very human problem of just with Yo-Yo it's essentially PTSD. With May it's her grieving, and I think it'll boil down to these much simpler elements that will probably hit a lot harder. It
feels like we're going to build like a really great sort of the families back together moment at some point.
When Fitz comes in and yeah,
I can see some gold coming, but yes.
Yeah, this I agree though, this isn't as strong an episode, but I like everything it sets up and the ideas that it's going, okay, this is where we're playing with this season. If the first episode was here's your fun showpiece to kind of kick off with a bang, this is very much the blueprint for the season.
I just saw a title for the next episode.
Oh god, what is it?
Alien commies from the future.
That sounds like the 50s.
Yeah, I'm in for it. If we're doing 50s paranoid alien, stuff, then great.
Yeah.
All right.
Maybe a Body Snatchers poster.
Yeah, maybe. If it's 1956, that'll track. But yes, let us know what you thought of this episode in the comments. You can like and subscribe, all that stuff. You can get us on the Twitters at mailed_fuzz for channel updates. And of course, you can support everything we do by going to patreon.com/mailfuzztv, and you can support us for as little as $1 per month over there and get some bonuses for your trouble. And I did mention liking, but it's really important on YouTube. It lets the YouTube algorithm know that we're worth recommending out and more people will find us. So it is aside from just giving us money, which is great, and by all means, if you want to, go for it. But it is the best way of just showing some support by clicking the old like button. So, but otherwise, that is us. So thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching TV, guys. Have you got any vanilla?